Chantal Pradines is going to introduce this morning session. And again, already, it's not that nice what I'm going to do, but we'll try for each group and each person taking the floor, we'll try to reduce the presentation to 15 minutes rather than 20 minutes. We'll try to do our best. So we'll have 20 minutes, and then we'll manage with our schedule.
Pour resituer. Non, là, ça ne marche pas. Je n'ai pas réussi à le mettre. Resituer donc ces dynamiques autour de ce.
So just a short introduction to focus on the dynamics around this topic, so they may be either negative or positive. So we said that memories may evolve, and sometimes so things get forgotten, and some of those memorial avenues could also disappear. Sometimes the plaques are also stolen or they disappear, and things may change. So regarding the disappearance of those avenues, so they happen quite often. So trees may disappear because of sicknesses like graphiosis for elm trees in America. Sometimes also some modern issues, or more modern issues, I would say. In the Lincoln Highway, as from 1925, then vandalism in the United States in the 1930s, 56 trees that were destroyed in Australia before 1934, 23 that were stolen in Australia as well. Vandalism in Italy in 2017, and this weekend, by the way, on one of the Cormier avenues that was planted by the association, so Cormier Fruitier Forestier, some trees that have already been damaged or stolen. And as François Varino said, well, it's it's like potatoes. Actually, when they get stolen, it means that it's interesting for people. So as I said, trees that are stolen, also enlarged roads, the underground project in the United States in 1923, removal of plaques in 1925. There remained some trees. Then some electric lines also. We had some issues in New Zealand as well as in the US. Building projects where trees are cut off. And if I remember well, so there was an issue also with a project for a bus line or something like that in Sydney. There were some issues, and they decided not to keep the alignment of trees. Then road safety is another issue, so this is an issue also that has been raised here. And a tree that had been planted by Vosges in France was also hit by a car and cut off. Then lack of replantation. And there are some figures in Australia in 1987. Every second avenue had disappeared. Then there's also the disappearance of those allees or avenues. So this is not Memorial Avenue, of course, but you can see that the trees are simply removed for safety reasons. Well, this used to be an avenue, actually, with many trees. But here again, no real maintenance, and those trees will certainly disappear at a certain moment in time. And then there's another element which I think is also noteworthy regarding the future of those memorial avenues. They have to do with alterations like visual loss of integrity, as we call it. Well, it's an avenue, and the avenue is a whole picture, and if you remove some trees, of course, the picture is changing. So this is the case of Des Moines in the United States. Sometimes also people plant trees a bit further, so I think of Ballarat as an example. Then cost for some managing plans, Ballarat in 2014, where they expressly say or indicate that trees should be put close to one another so as to keep this tunnel effect, or this plant cathedral, as some people say. So you saw the pictures yesterday. And if you change the location of trees, well then of course the perception will change as well. So this is an avenue that unfortunately has disappeared here between Domremy and Poussey, so two villages here very close to Liffol. The trees were replanted a bit further away from the road, and unfortunately so we've lost this cathedral effect, or this tunnel effect, and we will never reach a point in time or a moment in time when we can really get this colonnade or this cathedral effect. So that was it for the problems or the issues that we have. There's also an interesting point that needs to be stressed. We can observe that some positive dynamics may also be put in place, and people are interested in keeping those trees. There's also the commitment of population. So this will also be the subject of one of the presentations this morning. For the Des Moines Avenue, in one also in Seattle. So in 2013, people, neighbors, fought against the destruction of this avenue, and they managed to keep the trees in 1984. So they managed also to keep the name Memorial Avenue in 89. So there was a study carried out by one of the universities on this avenue. In the year 2000, a mixed commission was appointed to take care of this avenue. So it takes time, as you may understand, of course. And now, so they've decided to organize a heritage tour route, being part of a cultural route, and we will mention that also at a later stage. So we've got many examples of where people decide to oppose the creation of roundabouts and destruction of those avenues. We'll have some examples also in Britain. We will have the same presentation also for Italy, and we can see those positive initiatives or positive actions initiated by people who would like to keep those trees alive. And we hope, of course, that this dynamic will open new perspectives with guides or guidelines for management. We've got also the Friends of some avenues. They published guidelines actually focusing on activities with students as well as school children, working with families, organizing partnerships also with local municipalities. Physical actions, think of the award winners of some competitions, so that's what I call physical actions, concrete actions, would be much better. In Australia also trying to look for funding opportunities, media coverage. We are not very good at that, so we really need time. So we've also got some contact with Vosges Television, so a local TV channel that will visit us at the end of this seminar. So I think I will stop here, so we will discover concrete actions, real case studies that will allow us to understand precisely what those positive actions and initiatives are about. So it was just about the awards that were awarded a month ago, and this is also very interesting. Regarding road safety, because road safety has been motivation behind felling trees along the roads, and this seems to be a problem. Katharina, for instance, is also a member of a federal association in Germany, and unfortunately, so they've got many difficulties to try to keep those trees alive. In 2011, so we have this very interesting study. We have a comparison between, well, comparison in France, actually the risk of being killed on the road in a geographical area, according to the number of trees. And you can see that the risk is quite low, so it depends on the density, of course, of alignments. You can see that there's no correlation whatsoever. So you may live in a territory where there are many alignments of trees, apparently, so there's no real risk of being killed or getting injured by trees. And now, well, people take that into account. Well, that's the beginning of the process. And this was also published in this magazine, which is focusing more on road safety. So this is a reference reference magazine. And we were able also to publish an article on the preservation of trees. And again, so this is a Canada Lane or Canada Avenue.